Welcome to the DIY Writer Show with the mild-mannered, slightly heroic host, Jeff Bacon.
This is Jeff Bacon with the DIY Writer Podcast. Today we have Chris Fielden. I almost called you Fielden. Just whatever.
We practiced it
these
before
wonderful,
as well.
Introduction. Christopher Fielden, and he's from the UK. He's got multiple things we're going to talk about today. So I'm just going to, cut the BS and just say, you know what? I'm done with the introduction. Chris, what do you got for us?
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Apart from the COVID situation over here, everything is peachy.
Peachy
yeah.
King, yeah. So how hard are you guys locked down? Hard.
Full lockdown. We're allowed out for an hour a day at the moment to do some exercise. And apart from that, we've got to stay at home.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It's not a good situation. Not good.
Nope.
No. Certainly not good when you play in a band. There's no gigs happening, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about your band or your books first?
Well, we're talking about bands. Let's do the band bit first.
Let's do the band bit first.
Yeah.
So you're not playing anywhere. You have no gigs. You got nothing.
No.
But you do have a new album that came out.
We do. Acting Minen. It's by Little Villains. That's what the band's called.
Little Villains.
Little Villains. Yeah, it's everywhere. So it's on Spotify and YouTube and all the rest of it. So feel free to check it out. The band originally featured the late, great Filthy Animal Taylor, who played drums in Motorhead. And obviously, very sadly, he's no longer with us. And James, who's the guitarist, I've played in bands with all my life. And he asked me to join the band after, take over the stool from Phil. And we've been doing it ever since. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's good. It's a lot of good fun. Good fun. But obviously, we usually tour. And at the moment, we've got COVID-19 stopping us. We've also got Brexit stopping us because that's turned into a complete cluster of disaster from a musician's point of view, because we don't know if we're going to be able to play in Europe anymore because of visas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not great on that front, but we're still pumping the music out, so it's a lot of fun to do.
Well, I'm sure after all this COVID stuff, they'll get that Brexit stuff just all figured out.
I hope so.
Yeah,
you can but hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. 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 If COVID ever ends, that'll be the next thing they work on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
For sure. So this new album, when did you release it?
November of last year. We were thinking about holding off until we could actually gig, but we've got another one in the bag already, so we thought better get this one out so we can start prepping the next one. And at some point, hopefully, we can tour both of them.
So when you guys prep, are you guys like doing this over like a Zoom call or something? Or, I mean, how do you
Yeah, we do. So James lives out in Los Angeles on your side of the pond. Yeah. And me and Owen are based over here. And luckily in February, just before everything locked down, we were out in the States and recorded about 35 tracks.
Okay.
So we got 2 albums worth of material, and that's the first one. And we're working on the rest of it. So we spend a lot of time chatting on Zoom and on Facebook and stuff like that, and sorting out what we're doing. Yeah.
Sure. So you've got this album that came out in November, then you got another one that you can put out. I assume that. Yeah,
we'll probably aim for later this year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, when we can play again. But obviously, we don't know when that's going to be yet. So
right.
We'll see.
So when you release music like that, I mean, is it better to have one album a year, or I mean, is there a frequency thing, or I mean, how does that compare to like the book business? I'm kind of curious.
I think it depends on the artist. I mean, with Little Villains, we're quite prolific. So if we had our own way, we'd probably do 2 records a year, which is a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of bands won't do that much. But, we write a lot, and because all of us are involved in the writing process, we tend to get a lot of songs quite quickly. With books, I'm completely the opposite. I'm quite slow. Not because I procrastinate, I'm not a particularly quick writer when it comes to writing fiction. So that's totally the opposite. The book, dropped it on the floor, that one, which was out over a year ago. I've started on the sequel, and I reckon I'm not even a third of the way through it. And that's about a year and a half. So I'm slow.
Well, thank goodness for COVID. Now you have plenty of time, right?
Exactly. Well, if only, yeah. But
Yeah, if only.
It does free up a bit more time for writing.
For those kids in the audience, it doesn't quite work that way, but whatever.
Yeah.
You have all the time on your hands and still not right. And it's like, I can't get anything out.
Yeah.
So you write songs?
Yeah.
How does that compare to writing books? I mean, it's
totally different for me, because when we're involved in writing the songs as a band, it's not just me, it's everybody, and it's a collaboration. Whereas when I write books, it's just me. It's all down to me, and that's probably why I'm a bit slower, because you tend to, I don't know, think about it a bit more, I suppose.
So in songs, usually the lyrics are kind of rhythmic. Does that help you in your book writing?
To be honest, I don't write the lyrics.
Okay.
When we're doing the songs, James does all the vast majority of the lyrics of the songs, because he sings. I'm the drummer, and I play guitar well enough to come up with ideas for songs, but not well enough to perform it on a record. And so we all collaborate on that. It's a really interesting process. But yeah, when it comes to writing stories, I tend to do a first draft, then I'll send it into my writing group, who will critique it for me, and they're very blunt about what's wrong with it. Then I'll go back and then I'll rewrite it. So it's a completely different process. Whereas with a band, usually when we'd write together and bounce ideas off each other, and it just happens a lot quicker, because you push each other in the right direction. It just tends to be, I think it's just the way I work, but it's slower than writing. Yeah.
I can't even imagine how that works. I mean, I just, for some reason, I'm like kind of brain stumped on that, especially if it would be a lot easier if you're all sitting in the same room, just kind of, hey, what do you think of this? And let's do this, and actually come up with a song. Being stuck in lockdown, I can't even imagine how that works.
Well, we do it with demos. So if James has got an idea in the States, he's got a little studio out the back of his house, and he'll put the idea down and send us an MP3. Then me and Owen will get together when we're able to and chuck down the guitar line and the drums for it and send it back to him, and then he'll finish it off.
Okay.
So that's how we do it. If we weren't in a lockdown situation, I mean, we'd still work like that, because we're on different sides of the Atlantic.
Right.
But I think when we got together, we would also write, when we're all in the same room together. There's there's different ways of doing it.
So how long does it take you to get one song together?
Depends what mood you're in, I think, but quite often, I don't know, we just do it in a practice session.
Yeah.
We'll have the idea, thrash it out, and then you've got a demo. Then it gets refined a bit as James does his vocal line and chops it about a bit. But by the time we come to record it properly, if you've got a demo version, all you've got to do is perform it properly. You don't have to write it, and that works a lot better for us. It just allows you to record it quicker. That's why we were in the States for 3 weeks during January and February last year, and we've got 35, I think it was 35 tracks done.
Yeah.
Which is a lot for a 3-week period.
Yeah, I bet.
But they were all written, so all we had to do was just play them right, and that was it really. It's a good way of working. I like it, because it means you get it done, it's out, and you're doing things. It's better than sitting on stuff for ages and worrying about whether it's perfect or not. The band's quite fun. It's quite a fun band, so it's suited to working quickly.
Oh, cool. I don't know why I find this so interesting, but it's like, cool, you're in a band.
Yeah.
How's this work?
Yeah, it's good fun. It's really good fun. And when you go on tour, it's really nice, because you achieve an awful lot in a short space of time, because you're gigging all the time, and every day you're moving on somewhere else. And it's a very liberating experience, I think. It empties your brain, and you just have to focus on gigging, and that's really good as well. Good for the soul, I think.
Good for the soul.
Yeah.
Which sure. COVID is not.
No, COVID is not good for, I don't think it's good for anything really, is it? I can't think of any positives.
Just misery.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good for misery, and probably a lot of books coming out in the near future.
Well, there is that. Yeah, there
Yeah,
are
there
lots
is.
of books. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what the problem with writing is that COVID's really raised the bar as far as, okay, what kind of horror can I come up with now?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting actually. It seems there's a lot more opportunity out there. As I've noticed, there's a lot more competitions and publishing opportunities out there at the moment because people are sitting at home and thinking of things to do. But also, quite a lot of writers that I've spoken to said they're not actually writing, and it's because of I guess it's because of the anxiety that the situation is causing. It doesn't suit everyone creatively.
Yeah.
So personally, I found I'm still just writing like normal, but I think it's had an adverse effect on some people.
Yeah, I can say the first round of lockdowns affected me. And I'm not sure if it's because I was kind of forced to start a new business or, you know, whatever, but I have a lot of things going on. Then I thought, you know, what the hell, as long as I have so many things going on, I might as well start a podcast too. So I thought I'd do that, you know. And
Right. So how long is this? I know I'm not supposed to interview you, but how long has it been
ahead.
going? How long's it been going on? This
Since end of October of 2020.
Oh, right. So it's quite a new thing.
It's quite new. It's quite new.
Yeah.
You know, we've got well, I just published 56 today, and I think I've got 70 some recorded. You know,
I
mean, yeah,
That's
the problem
pretty good
is
going.
I've got a backlog that I'm trying to figure out how to, you know, you don't want to shotgun them out because you want to give every author, you know, a couple days on social media and everything else. But on the other hand, it's like, I need to get these guys out because otherwise it gets a little stale because, you know, like we're talking about COVID right now in the lockdown in the UK, you know, we've mentioned that a couple of times, you know, by the time this gets published, you know, in a month, maybe your lockdown's all done. And it makes no sense, right?
I hope so.
Right.
I hope so.
Right.
But yeah, no, I see what you mean. Yeah. So what's the other business you started? Or is it just
I've got a computer consulting business, and then I've got my book business.
And what's the book business?
I just write books.
Oh, right. Okay. So writing.
Yeah,
Cool.
I just started up a little publisher and you know, I mean, just like everybody else does. Hey, I'm publishing my own books, you know, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Using Amazon and stuff like that.
Yeah. So how long have you been writing?
I started seriously probably about 10 years ago now. I think it was 2011.
Okay.
I remember the day I decided to apply myself to it properly. I was at the time I had my own business, working as a man with a van, which is basically doing removals and deliveries and stuff. And I got hired to move a beehive. And I turned up at this job, and the beehive had 5,000 bees in it. And I was expecting it to be empty. I didn't ask. I just assumed it'd be an empty one.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'm not moving that. And it was a nice little old lady, and she basically sat me down with a cup of tea and cake and coaxed me into putting on a beekeeping suit and driving this beehive from Bristol, where I live, about 100 miles south down to Devon. And the van didn't have a bulkhead in, so they basically forklifted the beehive. It was like strapped to a pallet. And they forklifted it into the back of the transit van, gassed the bees, which was supposed to calm them down, shut me in, and then I had to drive them off. And the gassing just seemed to anger them beyond belief. So I was basically driving down these, you know, like main roads, just in a swarm of bees. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. When I get home, I'm going to sign up for a writing course, and I'm going to start treating that more seriously. And I signed up for the Writers Bureau and did a course, wrote a book, and haven't looked back, really.
That's hilarious.
That's how I got into it. So unusual.
You're driving down the road in a beekeeper suit in the middle of a swarm.
Yeah.
So how'd that delivery end? Was it wonderful?
In hindsight, it was great, but at the time, it was stressful.
I
got lost. I was trying to read the map with all these bees buzzing around. Eventually, I got there and they got it out. I was finding dead bees in my van for months afterwards. They were just everywhere.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, I finished the job. I got it delivered. The client was happy. And I swore never to move the beehive ever again.
I I think you know, the funny aspect, and I can just imagine how this works. You know, this little old lady bring, oh, just have some tea and a biscuit, and you know, we'll just talk about this real quick, and you know, just in
Yeah.
a very grandmotherly fashion.
Exactly.
I'll do it. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I can't remember how the conversation went, but she talked me into it. And the homemade cake definitely had something to do with it.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. At that point, how can you say no?
Exactly.
Then halfway through the trip, why the hell didn't I say no? Oh,
Yeah. But it makes for an amusing story after the fact, anyway.
Oh, that's a great story. I love it. Oh, so let's, you know, the one thing I find interesting is you have a book out there on how to write short stories. Now, you write short stories. That's predominantly what you do, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I started off by, after I did that course I was talking about, I did a synopsis as part of that course, and the tutor was like, "That's quite good." And they'd tell me when stuff was bad, so I thought, well, I might as well write the book. And I wrote that, got rejected by every agent and publisher you could think of, and decided to self-publish it so I could move on. And I basically went into short story writing after that because they were a lot easier to finish, and there's a lot more publishing opportunities for them. And since then, it's kind of, that's my comfort zone. That's where I like to write, so that's what I write.
Okay. Not only that, but you also have a writing course on how to do how to create short stories.
That's right. Yeah, it's really aimed at beginners and people that have got to the stage where they write quite well but aren't getting their stories published very easily.
Okay.
So it's kind of it's for people at that stage in their writing careers, if you like.
Okay.
And the book is as well. You know, when I wrote that, because I started a website off thinking I need a place to share all my writing so people can read it. And I started the website. Of course, no one read it because no one had heard of me.
Right.
And I had this spreadsheet of short story competitions that I used to work out where I was going to submit. And I thought, well, other people will probably find this helpful. Why don't I publish that on the website? And that's made the website really popular. So now it's a resource that people use. They don't really come to look at my writing. They come to look at all these different resources I've got on it that help other writers. And I thought, well, they're all interested in short story writing, so I should probably write a book about short story writing based on my experiences. And by that point, I'd had a lot of stories published, so I used them as case studies in the book so that people could see what I did in practice, and then they could have a bit of feedback from the editor or the publisher saying why they chose it and why they published it. Because I was looking for a book like that when I was starting out. I couldn't find one. Loads of advice out there, but there wasn't anything that said, and here is how you do it in practice.
Right.
So that's why I wrote that style of book. And it, you know, it's got mixed reviews on Amazon. Some people really like that kind of style. Other people really don't. They want something that's more in depth. And they're probably the people that are a little bit further down the path of their writing journey, if you like.
Yeah, or they're not.
You know, they're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
They might just not like what I'm doing.
Classes, never published anything, and oh no, that's totally wrong.
Yeah. There are some. I've encountered a few people like that.
Yeah, they all reside on Goodreads.
Yeah, Goodreads.
Yeah, Goodreads.
Wonderful,
my favorite place to see people who haven't become writers, but they love to criticize everybody else. You know?
Yeah. You do get that on Amazon quite a lot as well, actually.
You do, and you know, there's lots of silliness that happens when you get, you know, a 1-star and they're just like ripping into you, and I laugh because there's so many authors that have you know, like these really strange reviews. You know, there's one that got a review about some other product. You know, it's like, well, the packaging on this product, and they reviewed an ebook. Right. You know, they were talking about how the pieces fell out and everything else, and it's like, what kind of a book did you buy? You know, it wasn't a book, and the guy couldn't get it removed. you know,
Really?
yeah, it was, you know, it was obviously something that, you know, they reviewed the wrong thing and they're upset about whatever, you know, what some sort of a game or something like that. And the box is completely destroyed and the pieces had all fallen out and blah, 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 blah. It's like, this isn't the book. Well, I'm sorry. You know, and it's sitting there and it's like a 1 star and it's like, well, whatever.
Yeah, Amazon are weird like that, and they sometimes refuse genuine reviews as well.
Oh yeah, you know, they'd hate to have somebody that you know, has any connection to you actually review your book.
Yeah.
You guys talked on Facebook like a year ago, so this one's gone.
Yeah,
because there's
you
must
have asked for that one.
Yeah, but somebody reviewing a T-shirt can go ahead and write about how the quality of your cotton's really bad on your book.
yeah, quite. But there's actually, is it Veet? There's one of the products on there that's got loads of really amusing reviews. I think it's Veet. It's the hair removal one. That's worth reading. People writing daft reviews.
Yeah, the other ones I really like are the ones that are they're serial reviewers.
Yeah,
you know, so I hated this book. Okay, and then you see the same reviewer on book 2. I hated this book too. You know, they buy
if you
book
hated
3.
the first
This one is the worst one of all 3 of them. I wouldn't even read these. And you're like, thank you.
Yeah. Why did you read all 3 if you hated the first one?
I'm glad you suffered through it and paid me, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
And
yeah. Well, I was going to say something really interesting then that's gone out of my head.
Oh, come on. Oh, shoot. Gone.
It's gone. It's gone. Something to do with that.
Oh, all right.
I've just done an audio book for the first time of this, which is Alternative Afterlives, published by Victorina Press, which is a fabulous independent UK publisher who follow the principles of bibliodiversity. And so they publish lots of people who aren't white males, basically, which is quite refreshing.
Okay.
I know I am a white male, but I'm in the minority with it. And it's a nice publisher to work with. They're so diverse. But yeah, I've recently recorded an audiobook version of that book, and that was very difficult. I don't know if you've got any experience with that, but ACX is the main platform, which is owned by Amazon.
Yep.
And then you've got to push it all through there and get all sorts of technical things right.
Most people call it Audible. On the backside.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, Audible. Yeah.
That's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it was it was an interesting process to go through, but I didn't realize it was going to be quite so technically difficult.
Yeah, I actually pulled everything off of Audible.
Why was that?
Well, number one, I want to redo everything.
Right.
And the nice thing is, with all the problems with Audible doing that stupid return policy that they have, so somebody can get your Audible book and listen to it and then return it and then get the next one and not have to pay for it. So then you get a purchase, a return, a purchase, a return. They can filter through all your books and never pay for anything, and then go on to the next one. And they've started to change the policies, but it still kind of sucked. So, you know, I didn't have I had a 7-year agreement with them, but I didn't use their talent, so I was able to get out of it. Switch it to a normal one, then have it delisted. So I'm gonna redo them with somebody else, and then go wide with them.
I did look at getting someone to do it, but in the end, I decided to do it myself. So I recorded some of it, and I got 2 friends of mine to perform. One of them's female, so she did the stories that are written from a female point of view, because it would just sound stupid in my lady voice. I couldn't see
do your
that
lady
working.
voice again. That doesn't sound stupid at all.
No, I think it does. It sounds too
whatever.
Yeah, there you go. It sounds like Monty Python, doesn't it?
It kind of does, yes.
And so I got one of my friends to do that.
You stole my joke.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry, but you can cut that so that it works.
I'm not cutting that at all.
No, you're not cutting anything. It's all going in there. So I got a couple of friends to help me out with it, Mark Rusford and Alison Banham, and they both did a stellar job. So I guess I'm in the same situation. If I don't like what Audible do with it, then I can pull it down. But it's only been up there a couple of weeks so far.
Okay.
I sold a few, but I haven't looked to see what the returns have been like, so we'll see.
Okay, your volume went down a little bit. Can you get a little closer to your mic?
Yeah, can you hear that now?
A little better.
This mic, it's a new mic. I don't know what I'm doing with it.
That's all right.
There we go. I'll try pushing it all back in again. How's that?
Cool beans.
Yeah.
We'll just mark that down real quick. Woohoo! Anyway, so what tips do you have for people just starting to write short stories? Because that's one of the things that I found that short stories really help, especially if you're stuck on your novel. Writing a short story can just get you out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it really can. Not only that, they're good for lead magnets. They're good for, submissions to other publications and all sorts of things.
They're good to have on your CV when you do start pushing your book to agents and publishers as well.
Yep.
I think they're really, really useful for that. And the other thing you can do with them, if you are writing a novel and getting stuck, is use one of your novel characters in a short story.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can test them out with an audience and see if they work. And sometimes that can reveal problems and help you finish your book.
Yep. I like writing origin stories and also writing the villain side of things.
Yeah.
The villain side of things, I don't publish that, but I think it helps to and it's stupid the way I do it, but it helps me. But if I write the story from the villain's perspective, and it's not very descriptive or anything like that, but it's I'm trying to do this and this and this and this, and then that son of a bitch came and ruined it for me, so now I have to do this, or kind of lay out the plan and everything else. I don't really write a short story per se, because like I said, there's no, it's not like the building was gray and dark and put some of that in there, but not much. But I do like to take the villain's perspective and make sure that his plan's gonna actually work and figure out what his reactions are to things. When you write the story, then it makes more sense if I have both plots figured out.
I quite often do that and just stick with the villain, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And a lot of my stories are about death, so people end up dead and then they're somewhere else beyond life or whatever.
Sure.
And so it lends itself to writing from the villain's point of view sometimes. True. But if you're looking into getting into short stories, I think you need to read around the subject a little bit, because there's an awful lot of advice out there. There's no right or wrong way of writing a story, but you still have to understand, the key pieces of advice surrounding it, so that you can work out your own style and voice that's unique and is likely to get published. I think that's the best piece of advice I can give people, is read around the subject matter.
So your short stories, how long are they typically? I mean, what's your average short story?
My comfort zone is between 1,500 and 3,000 words.
Okay.
Some of them are a little bit shorter, some of them go up to about 5,000, but on the whole they're around the 2,000-3,000 mark, I'd say.
Okay.
But that suits me. Again, it depends. Some people prefer to write much shorter pieces, like flash fiction, stuff that's up to 1,000 words. But if you're aiming to get published, under 5,000 is where you need to aim, really, because most publications have that kind of word limit on it.
Yeah.
There are exceptions to the rule, but there aren't very many.
Yeah. There's a fiction group, and we put a bunch of short stories out for Christmas, and we give it away for free.
Yeah.
And I actually have a copy of it right here. It's From the Shadows, and there's a whole bunch of epic fantasy people in here, so it ended up being about 714 pages.
How many words is that?
Oh, what's it? 300,000, I think, or something like that. It's
that's a lot. Yeah, it's
pretty good. Yeah. So I was laughing because I'm kind of that dark fantasy, urban fantasy guy, kind of the ugly redheaded stepchild of the group. Everybody else is epic fantasy. Right. So they're like, how are we going to do this in 10,000 words? It's like, okay, mine's 5.
Yeah.
And I was you know, struggling with 5. It's like, okay, you know, whatever.
Yeah, and I find when I edit, you know, mine usually start off life at around 3,000, 4,000. But when I edit, they come down by about 1,000 words.
Yeah.
I think that's important. You should. That's good advice for people that write epic fantasy: is edit your work.
Oh, they did.
Cut it back a bit.
These guys edited their work. You know,
They do, yeah.
Every guy, every author in there is they're accomplished writers.
Right. Okay.
You know, so I mean, that's not. They write really. Yeah, I mean, an epic fantasy. You know, when I talk to these people, they're like, I had to just kind of cut it off at 150,000 because it's just getting too long. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I do not suffer with that problem at all. Mine tends to be very short. Yeah. Maybe it's something to do with the ideas I have. They're concise. Drummer ideas, simple.
Yeah. So when you're writing a short story, I mean, how do you kind of set it up? I mean, it's basically scene by scene at that point. So it starts with you know, I guess I haven't read any of your short stories, but you know, they usually start with some sort of an incident, and then it just kind of goes from there, and you kind of build the world as you go, and very concisely.
I tend to write in the here and now and don't bother with backstory unless it's absolutely necessary, because that's tedious to read quite often.
Right.
So start in the midst of the situation and drive through it. And what I haven't got a set way of working, but I try and know where the story ends, because if you haven't got an end in mind, personally, I find the story can wander off on tangents, and then it's not any good anymore.
Yeah.
So I start with a character and situation, know roughly where it's got to go, and then write it and see what happens. And you know, the first draft's not very good, I edit it and then tighten it up, and quite often have something decent at the end of it.
I've read a lot of stories that short stories that where they try and drive the backstory into it, or they try and, you know, build the world. And it seems to me, and this is just my opinion, that does get, like you said, a little tedious to read, because, you know, it's almost like an info dump right in the middle of the story. Oh, by the way, the magic system. No. You know, and it kind of okay, you know.
Yeah, you don't need that, and it's a common mistake people make when they're starting out, is they think the reader needs to know everything, and they don't. You as a writer need to know everything, but quite often once you've written the backstory, that's for you. Now write the forward story for the reader.
Right.
Their readers are more intelligent than most writers give them credit for. I think that's fair to say. They don't need to be told everything.
Right. I mean, there's you know, if you have, you know, if you're writing about elves, you know, they've probably read a story or two about them, or dragons or whatever. So I mean, there's some things that there's a lot of nuances that you don't have to put in there, because they should already know something about it. And if they don't, well, you know, they're either reading the wrong story, or they can go read another story and find out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, something.
Yeah, just tell them what they need to know for the purpose of your story.
They don't need a real good description of hell. They can actually figure that one out for themselves.
No, and quite often they don't really need to know anything about the main character unless it's relevant to the particular situation they find themselves in.
Right.
Yeah, they don't need to know how old they are, when their birthday is, what food they like, and all that kind of stuff. They just don't need to know it.
No, but they do. But you do, as a writer, have to understand the reactions of your main character, because that's what sets it up, and then you start understanding what their character is.
Exactly. Yeah. So the writer needs to know all that stuff. The reader doesn't.
Right. Right, because the reader's probably going to figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other main thing I think you need to do when you start out is understand point of view. So understand whose story you're telling, what's at stake for them, and therefore where the conflict is within the situation. And that's a really important way of looking at it. And you quite often find people use omniscient third person because they think it's easy to head hop and tell everyone everything, all the different characters are thinking. And actually, that's the hardest one to write. You're much better off using third person limited or first person. Use first person, it's a lot easier to stay focused on the central character.
There's a
From their point of view.
There's a lot of writers that that look at first person and are like, oh my God, that's so hard. It's like,
no.
You know, it's just that you don't know everything. You only know what's in the head of that person.
Exactly.
You know, and so I think it actually makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
Just because you can draw the inner thoughts in, and you can actually, okay, this is the way this guy's going to react.
Yeah.
Information.
And you can learn about that character by how they view the world or the situation and what they think about it. It's a good way of show, don't tell. I hate that piece of advice, but you know, it exists for good reason. But by writing in the first person, you are showing the reader who the person is rather than telling them.
Show, don't tell. Yeah, I get that. And when I first started out, it's like, okay, show, don't tell. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Then afterwards, it's like, yeah, sometimes I just got to tell you what the hell's going on, because you know what?
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the revelation came that, you know what, there are no frickin' rules. Go ahead and do it as long as it
exactly works. I think what you have to do is read around what show, don't tell means, so you understand it, which we're not going to get in a brief conversation like this. You need to read around the subject matter and then do your own thing with it.
Right.
It's a guideline, not a rule.
But I think people that are just starting out get really dogmatic about the rules, you know, and that's fine when you're practicing, but when you really start to get into it, then it's like, rules were, it's a suggestion.
Yeah.
It's a,
and you see every famous writer bend those rules.
Yeah.
So,
and when you read them, you're like, you know, my favorite thing is some of these groups, oh my God, don't do that. It would be so jarring to the reader. Well, sometimes you want to jar the fuck out of them. Sometimes you just jam it right in their face and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. You know, I mean, sometimes you do it, like in a novel. You know, I like the way James Patterson writes some of his stuff, and he's always got a couple of chapters in there where it's third person limited. But a majority of his stuff is first person.
Yeah. I like his books for that reason, because they get distinct voices. I read one, can't even remember which one it was now, but they had the bits written from the bad guy's point of view,
right,
in third person, and the rest of it was written in first. I really like that.
Right. You know, it's just, you know, the way you divide up your chapters.
Yeah.
It just, you know, so it's a new scene, and guess what? This one is going to be third person, and you're kind of, you know, you jump into it. It's like, oh, okay, this is the villain. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you kind of need to know what he's doing. You know, it's not any different than watching a movie and seeing, you know, the detective, this is what he's thinking, this is what he finds, and all of a sudden it jumps to a new scene where, you know, the villain's doing something else, and then seeing where the detective catches up with them. You know, I mean, it's, you know, if you're trying to make that movie play in their head while writing a book, that's not a bad way of doing things.
No, totally. And in books, chapter breaks, you kind of expect different chapters to be written from different points of view. In a short story, you don't see it quite so often, but I've done it in one of the ones in there. It's called Troll's Head. And I used first person for the bits written from the troll's point of view, because the troll speaks in very clipped speech. And the other bits, which are written from the other protagonist's point of view, are written in third person. And that worked quite well, because they're very short chapters. There's about 11, and it's 11 chapters, and it's only a 4,000 word story. So you can use that kind of technique in short story writing as well.
Sure.
And now that flash fiction's becoming more popular, and so are novellas in flash. So they're almost like a novel-length story written in snippets, very short scenes of flash fiction. I think that's another storytelling technique that's really interesting.
I think flash fiction is really cool. I just haven't gotten into it myself, but you know, it makes you think about what you write, because you have to make every word count. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then I think if you try and write that, it's the same way as short stories. If you've only written one novel, you know, it might be a little wordy. But if you try and take, like 5 or 6 chapters and put it into a short story, depending on how long your chapters are and everything else, that can really change the way that you write, because you have to be more concise and more. Same thing in flash fiction. Take a short story that's 3,000 and go ahead and say that, make the same points and make the, tell the same story, but do it in 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does make you think. I mean, I don't regard myself as a very good flash fiction writer, because my ideas tend to not suit things that are that short. But it really makes you think about editing.
Yeah.
And tightening up what, I've said that in 10 words. Can I actually say it in 3? And things like that.
Right.
It can really tighten up what you do. It's an interesting exercise, even if it's not for you.
Well, even if you're not going to publish it, try it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because, practice makes perfect, right?
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes.
Totally. I run a few flash fiction writing challenges on my website, so if any of your listeners would like to, they can submit and see their work published through that. I've just filled up one, which is called the 81 word challenge, where the stories have to be exactly 81 words long. And I've just received the 1,000th story, and so I'm going to publish 1,000 authors in a book in support of charity, which is really nice.
That's cool.
Just started the epic editing job on that one. It's going to be long. It's an awful lot of flash fiction.
That is.
Yeah.
I used to try and write these little tiny short stories that were, I think I limited myself to 110 words, and just put them on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, just to see. And that was interesting as far as, try to get real dark real quick, and, just kind of throw a twist there real quick, and then somebody dies. I mean, just, dark fantasy, horror, whatever you want to call it. And that was hard.
Yeah, it was very difficult. It's surprising people come up with some great ideas though. There was one for the 81 words challenge, because it's 9 nines. So a bloke had written a story about the 9 lives of a cat, and each sentence was 9 words long and told the story of that life. And that, that's a really good idea for a piece of flash fiction. It stuck with me.
It really is.
So, yeah, it's amazing what people come up with stories that short.
The creativity that that writers have, there are, I would say, at least on a daily basis, I look at somebody else's work or something that they, hey, I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to do that, and I'll look at it and I'll go, oh man, I'm such an idiot. Why didn't I come up with that?
Yeah, totally.
That's a beautiful thing. Or, there's some things that it's like, hey, can I rip you off? Because that's a really good idea.
Yeah,
really worked well over here.
Great
idea. Really pissed off if I kind of copied that a little bit.
Yeah. I get it I run the To Hull and Back competition as well, which is like a biennial short story competition aimed at humorous stories. I get some fantastic entries into that every year. Yeah. It's open at the moment. I've had some brilliant ones this year already.
So your comprehensive short story writing course is £225.
Yeah, it's got different tiers, so you can sign up for different levels of it. But yeah, it starts at 225.
Okay.
It's a video course. It's you have to be self-motivated and learn and crack on. It suits people that are like that way.
Oh, self-motivation. That's hard.
Yeah, there's exercises and stuff in there, and you can get a bit of feedback on your work and things like that. But yeah,
cool.
I mean, personally, that it suits me because that's how I learned to write. I was self-motivated and did it myself. So
sure,
you have to have a little bit of that attitude, I think, to be a writer.
Yes, completely agree. So, and that's at learnchristopherfielden.com, which I'll put the links to that and your regular website and everything else in the show notes. So when this comes out, we'll get together with that. So do you have any, just kind of closing up the short story portion of this talk, you have any other tips for people who are getting into short stories?
Yeah, I mean, it's a common piece of advice, but read a lot of short stories so that you can see what works and what doesn't. I mean, read Roald Dahl, read Philip K. Dick and people like that who write very interesting short stories. Another common piece of advice, but it's common advice for good reason, is avoid cliches. So cliche phraseology detracts from the originality of your voice, so just avoid it wherever possible. But also avoid cliched storylines that people may have heard of before, and cliche characters like the drunk cop that's just about to retire and needs to solve the case he's been working on for 25 years.
Oh, shit, that's my next book.
You'd be surprised how many people still do that one. But yeah, so if you avoid cliches, it's good. And yeah, come up with an interesting stake, as in what's at stake for your character, not just me. And
I'd like a T-bone, please.
yeah, marinated in rhino juice.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, it does sound good. Yeah, and enjoy writing. Don't get lost in the rules. You've got to actually be excited about it and be creative and never give up, basically.
Yeah, and push through it. Finish the story, because at some point in time,
Finish the story. Yeah,
you're going to look at it and go, "Oh, I'm done with this," and try and move on to the next idea. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, finish it off, then move on to the next one.
Right. Or start 5 different projects at once and see what gets finished. That doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
Nothing gets finished. I've been there.
No, I tried that too, and guess what? Nothing gets finished.
Nothing gets finished.
Yeah. I'm good enough. I can do this. No, you can't. Yeah, no. Not gonna work.
Not happening.
No, not gonna work. So you got the band, and you got your courses, and you also have a book out that talks about writing short stories, and you have another book that's coming out, you said?
The 81 word challenge thing, yeah, that'll be towards the end of this year. It'll be an anthology with 1,000 writers in it from all over the planet.
Okay. How many books do you have out? I was just
probably about, if you include the anthologies with lots of other authors, probably about 20.
About 20. Yeah.
Something like that.
Which is a good amount of writing.
Yeah.
On top of everything else you do.
Yeah. The how-to book is the one that sells the most, and I think that's because it's got a definite audience and people are interested in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I tend to focus on marketing that one quite a lot. I run Amazon ads on it and stuff like that because it does actually sell and make a profit. Not a huge profit, unfortunately, but it does, it does earn me some money.
Well, anthologies in general are a hard sell for some people.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are. A book of short stories from one author is probably easier than selling a book of short stories from multiple authors.
Yeah, I would say so.
And then, a nonfiction book, those usually sell pretty good as long as it's a, good solid book and, gives people, some direction to what they need.
Yeah, definitely.
Type thing. But I know I've bought a lot of those books and read them and go, yeah, I'll take this and this and this, and the rest of it I just kind of throw out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that.
But in writing courses and everything else, I think they help quite a bit in your development as a writer.
Yeah, they do. You just gotta pick the right one for you. I quite often get queries about my course and tell the person that it's actually not what they need. They need this. Yeah.
I the general courses on writing, how to write a story, that's good when you're starting off. But if you want to get more technical on, there's a lot of really good courses on actual writing out there, whether they be from colleges or whatever. When you're looking at changing to like flash fiction or something else, it's not a short, going from novels to novellas to, novelettes to short stories, whatever you want to classify yourself as. It's not bad to not only read from other stories that are that length, but also, take a class. From somebody else who's been doing it for a while.
I did the Writers Bureau course when I first started off, and I find that one really good because it covered everything from journalism right through to writing a novel and everything in between. And it gave you a real taste of lots of different things you can do with writing, and then it gives you direction. So
Yeah.
I find it worked for me. That one's still out there. If people want to look at it, I find it really good. It was about 10 years ago now, but
yeah, that kind of gets me off subject a little bit just because you said journalism. I've been watching as things unfold over here in the US, all these people that have these podcasts and these they're trying to be journalists. They're trying to be, this is what I saw today, and then they give their opinion on it and everything else. And there's a lot of opinion and very few facts.
yes, and it used to be totally different. When I did the course, it was back when people actually used to buy printed newspapers. It's before everything got really crazy on the internet. And I got to work with a couple of editors, and they would basically butcher what I sent them and take out any personal opinion, and it would just be the facts.
Yeah,
and that was really interesting to work with. But nowadays, it's just not like that.
I remember when you'd read an article and be like, "Holy cow!" Okay. And then 2 days later, there'd be like, well, we got this fact wrong. So this is actually what it was. And there'd be a retraction in the paper or a correction.
Yeah.
And you don't see that anymore. If somebody screws up, you don't see somebody going, well, you know what? I was completely wrong about that. Or I made that up, or, that was my opinion or whatever. There is no distinction between what actual fact is or not.
No. And that's part of the problem that fuels misinformation.
Yeah.
People start believing in stuff that just isn't true. It's
I've been seeing there's a ton of activity out there of people posting like video clips and saying, oh my God, this is happening now. And it'll be a video clip from like 3 years ago from, not even this country, someplace else, oh, look, the army's moving. It'll be the Canadian Army doing some, routine training from 5 years ago. It's like, that doesn't even have a flag on it, dude. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a bit frightening, really.
It really is. And, the thing that bothers me is that when people look at this crap and they're like automatically, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. It's like, did you look at it? Did you discern what was really happening there, or did you just jump to, it's almost like it's kind of sheepish. And on one side, it's like, I'd really love to get a whole bunch of readers that just read my stuff and just believe it all.
Yeah.
And just be totally hooked on it. On the other hand, it's like, oh my God, what's happening to society? I can't believe that nobody looks at this with a critical eye and says, it's bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a scary, we're in a scary place, I think.
I think, especially 2020 and starting off with 2021, there's a lot of conspiracy theories. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of people that are really, I don't know if you want to call it anxiety or if you want to call it, just pure crazy. They're all batshit nuts or whatever.
I think there are a few that are like that.
They follow things, and they follow too much.
Yeah,
leave it all, and it's like,
yeah.
I think being stuck in the house makes people look for information, whether it be good or bad, and believe it. Whereas they'd be much better off reading fiction because it's probably closer to the truth.
Yeah, in many ways. Yeah.
In many ways, yeah. So, any last words for your readers, fans, or students, or anything else?
Keep on writing. Keep on writing stories. Keep on making music.
Keep on making music.
Yeah, it's good for the soul. It's good for the soul. People need it. So
I am right after this going to bring you guys up on my. I assume you guys are in YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You search for Little Villains. We've got our official artist channel sorted out and all that kind of stuff. It's all on there. Lots of stupid videos we've been making in lockdown because we can't tour as well.
Oh, stupid videos are my favorite.
Excellent. You'll have a field day then.
You'll have a field day. Very cool. You know what? It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, sir. I appreciate it.
You too, Jeff. Thanks very much for entertaining me.
Oh, you know what? I think it's gone both ways, especially when you start interviewing me. It's like, holy crap, I got to answer questions. This isn't right.
Prepared for this.
This doesn't feel right. Very cool. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and call this to a close. We're sitting at just about an hour. I want to thank everybody for listening. This is Jeff with the DIY Writer Podcast. And if you wouldn't mind, follow me on YouTube, follow me on whatever medium you happen to be listening to this podcast on. We're everywhere. Other than that, you know what? Things are going to get better at some point in time. They have to. With that, I want to tell you, have a great day and keep your chin up. Bye.
Please hit the subscribe button. I get a bonus for every subscriber, and I only need 1,506 more to become a full-time paid employee. Help me, please.